conditioning units, all sizes and types, high wall, cassette and ductable, while supplies last. Don't sweat through another scorching day. Upgrade your comfort and save big. Visit us today at Freestech and Electric in Castle Comfort or call 1767-440-6717 and feel the difference. But hurry, once they're gone, they're gone. That's where you going. My brother, I going to buy Castle Comfort here by Freestech and Electric. I gonna get an AC boy. They are sale. Let's go and check that boy. It's hot.
Fair and balanced, unbiased and clear, concise and accurate. This is the DBS Evening News. Here now is your presenter with the headlines.
In the headlines, Catholic priest Father Nigel Karam has issued a stern warning to the youth of Dominica. In news from the region, the Bahamas Minister of Economic Affairs announces no new taxes in the 2025-2026 budget. And internationally, King Charles III visits Canada in a response to U.S. President Donald Trump's threat of annexation. Good evening, I am Leila Langford. Details of the news when we return.
Too often, customers are counted but not valued. Like mere numbers, statistics, transactions. But at Flow, we're prioritizing you, our valued customers who have been with us through every milestone, every moment. That's why we're putting our money where your loyalty is. Flow customers claim up to $400 in rewards for smartphones, groceries, and more when you add mobile to your current internet plan. Because loyalty isn't a one-way street. At Flow, loyalty flows both ways.
DBS News.
Welcome back. In the headline this evening, Catholic priest Father Nigel Karam has issued a stern warning to the youth of Dominica to refrain from taking matters into their own hands. His appeal was made during the funeral mass of the late Kimon Emmanuel from Goodwill, who lost his life to gun violence last month.
Do not go and enter into the spiral of violence and revenge. Revenge is not the answer. Revenge will never be the answer because all it causes is more death and more grief and more violence and more death and more grief and more violence. That's all it causes. If we want to see a different future, if we want to see a different society, if we want to see a different community, if we want to see our young men reach old age, then we need to stop and think what it is are we doing and what it is we are not doing. These words are not meant to be condemnatory. To condemn is to kill, to destroy. To condemn is to give no hope. But Jesus always gives hope. His judgment is a just judgment that invites us to evaluate our lives, to assess our decisions, and to change. When we were burying, I think Chris Solomon and his mother was here, and Kimon's mother was there as well. And I said, a lot of times we think that what we have will save us. We think that because we carry a gun, it will save us. It won't. We think that because we have beautiful clothes or jewelry that it will save us. It won't. We think that because we have many, many friends, it will save us. It won't. The only person who can save is Jesus Christ.
Catholic priest Father Nigel Karam. Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit says the country's emergency responses have been boosted ahead of the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season. The hurricane season officially begins on June 1st. Mr. Skerrit told a press conference today Dominicans must be proactive and begin early preparations.
The government of Dominica, in collaboration with regional and international partners, has strengthened our emergency coordination systems, expanded shelter and emergency supply storage capacity, upgraded communication infrastructure, and reviewed response protocols across ministries and local authorities. 2 brand new emergency facilities, one in Jimmet and the other in Portsmouth, are now operational thanks to our partnership with the government of the United States of America. Opened just last week, these facilities strengthen our national capacity to coordinate disaster response and store relief items closer to the communities that need them. Our hope is that we will not have need to use those facilities, but they're there in the event that we're impacted. We have also invested in retrofitting our shelters to ensure they meet standards for safety and dignity, and we continue to train emergency personnel and volunteers across the country. But as I cautioned before, readiness is not the responsibility of the government alone. Each of us has a role to play. And so I urge all citizens to begin preparations in earnest. Review your family emergency plans. Check your homes and businesses for vulnerabilities and secure your roofs. Ensure that you have adequate food, water, and medical supplies should a storm disrupt access to basic services. I take this opportunity to remind all homeowners of the importance of keeping your home insurance policies current, especially as we enter the hurricane season.
Meantime, the Prime Minister is calling on Dominicans to look out for each other during the hurricane season.
As the season progresses, please stay informed. The Met Office and Office of Disaster Management will issue regular bulletins throughout. Take those warnings seriously. We know all too well that a single storm, a single rain event can bring devastating consequences. I want to speak especially to the elderly and the differently abled or those living alone. Make arrangements now with family, neighbors, or community groups to ensure you are not left behind in the event of an emergency. And I call on all Dominicans to look out for one another. Let us revive the spirit of solidarity that carried us through past crises. This week, in my capacity as head of the National Emergency Planning Organization, NEPO, I will meet with the chairpersons of the various committees to ensure that all sectors are aligned and ready to respond effectively during the hurricane season.
Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit. In other news, Prime Minister of Grenada, Dickon Mitchell, says small island developing states continue to struggle with accessing climate financing. He emphasized that developed countries should take responsibility for transitioning to non-fossil fuel energy. He spoke to DBS News in Grenada last week.
From a small island developing state perspective, I actually think large countries who've created the global warmings are the ones who should be transitioning to non-fossil fuel energy and frankly giving us an opportunity to ramp up if necessary and if the only resource we have is in fact fossil fuel, to ramp up our own development so that we can then transition into alternative renewable sustainable energy, because if you don't have the financing to do so, you'll never be able to do so. And let's face it, despite all the talk about climate finance, I think we all know it is perhaps the most inaccessible finance. It's almost an illusion for small island developing states. I can tell you, post Hurricane Beryl, we've received absolutely no significant financing from any of our international development agencies to address what has happened to us. We've had, on a bilateral level, some grants in kind, small grants. When I say small, I mean small, in cash, but none of Europe, none of our partners in the United States have provided any funding at all, whether it's to assist with housing, infrastructure, rebuilding or repairs or resilience building, coastal protections or anything of the sort. So the truth is, when you have these events, there's a lot of media attention for 24 hours and then they just move right on to other things. And, we could comment about the wars and the this and the that and the billions being spent there, but that's their money. They have the prerogative. So we also have the prerogative to make sure that if we do have an opportunity, if God blesses us with hydrocarbons and it's in exploitable quantities, just as they've done so, that we should do so.
Prime Minister of Grenada, Dickon Mitchell. Dominica could see changes to its education system come September 2025. This comes as Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit says education reform is long awaited. The Prime Minister made the remarks during a press conference this morning.
I've been talking about education reform for so long, but everybody wants to be consulted. And our children now are being affected by this every single year. So I can tell you I'm going to bring the guillotine down on all these things, where you have all this thing of primary school children doing 13 subjects. It has to be something on the pass. This is ridiculous. We have to go to the 4 or 5 subjects. English, math, social studies with some history in it, social science. That is the subjects. Music, dance, flute, guitar, art, sports. These are extracurricular activities. where children have to be able to work together, play together, do things together. We're not building a culture of collaboration. We're not building a culture of cooperation. We're not building students with analytical skills and critical thinking and comprehension skills. And in an era of information, AI, a child doesn't have to remember anything because you can go on your phone and get everything. But when you have a little child carrying a bag that not even a father can carry, I mean, we have the children depressed. Even this issue of this national assessment, it has to be revamped. It has to be rethought. You understand? Because if every child has a space, why should when a child get to grade 5, the only thing we're teaching them is about common entrance, national assessment, and we forget that there are other things in the world to deal with? So come September, we're going to do maths, we're going to do English language, we're going to do social studies with some history in it, and we're going to do some little science and so on, and we focus on critical skills. So it's a conversation I'm going to have next month, June, and to come up to a thing where we go back to the basics. And I say so with the greatest sense of emotion, the greatest sense of concern, that I have a responsibility, because the box stop is me, that I'm going to have this thing effective in September. That all the other stuff will be extracurricular activities.
Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit. In related news, 750 students will sit the Grade 6 National Assessment this week. The two-day assessment will be held on Thursday and Friday at 58 centers across Dominica. Education Officer for Measurement and Evaluation is Krishna Robin.
The Ministry of Education, Human Resource Planning, Vocational Training and National Excellence will administer the Grades 6 National Assessment 2025 on Thursday, May 29th and Friday, May 30th, 2025. This year, 750 candidates, that is 373 girls and 377 boys, will be taking the exams across 58 centers around the island. The exams are set to begin at 7:45 each day. All exams this year will be paper-based. On Thursday, May 29th, candidates will write the language arts and social sciences selected response papers or multiple choice, with the language arts having an additional composition aspect. On Friday, May 30th, candidates will write the mathematics and science and technology selected response papers. With the support of educators and administrators, the Ministry of Education has meticulously prepared for the successful administration of the national assessment to include pertinent guidelines for relevant stakeholders and training of supervisors.
Robin also encouraged parents to allow students to relax ahead of the sitting of the national assessment.
We are requesting that parents or anyone not directly involved with the administration of the exams to stay clear of the compounds of any testing center while the examinations are in progress. Additionally, it is advised that parents allow their children to relax some days leading up to the examinations. The Ministry of Education, Human Resource Planning, Vocational Training, and National Excellence wishes each and every candidate success in the upcoming examinations.
Education Officer for Measurement and Evaluation, Krishna Robin. The agricultural sector and its contribution to Dominica's economy will be highlighted when a panel discussion takes place on Wednesday at the UWI Auditorium from 6 p.m. The discussion will involve representatives of the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries, Blue and Green Economy, and other participating agencies, including farmer groups and cooperatives.
What we plan to do on Wednesday night to ensure that we get to stimulate the farmers to recognize that which they're doing as farmers is that one of the things that the Lord ordained. We want to continue the process by using the farmers' feast opportunity to introduce that which the Lord is saying to us. Agriculture is the way Dominica must go. It's the breadbasket of the Caribbean. So we're not only planting for ourselves or family, but we are also planting to ensure the rest of the Caribbean that He will determine for us to feed as well. So this is the reason why we are doing what we're doing on the 28th of May. The major objective of the event is Dominicans to become aware that agriculture is our main economic stake. We're already doing it. We were doing it before when it was a banana producer. We'll be having this discussion along this line.
organizer of the panel discussion, Joan Henry. That's the national focus, regional and international developments up next.
Too often, customers are counted but not valued, like mere numbers, statistics, transactions. But at Flow, we're prioritizing you, our valued customers who have been with us through every milestone, every moment. That's why we're putting our money where your loyalty is. Flow customers claim up to $400 in rewards for smartphones, groceries, and more when you add mobile to your current internet plan. Because loyalty isn't a one-way street. At Flow, loyalty flows both ways.
DBS News.
In news from the region, the Bahamas Minister of Economic Affairs has hinted that the country's 2025-2026 budget will have no new taxes and no increases in taxes. The minister also noted that the government expects to hit its deficit target of $69.8 million for the current fiscal year or come very near it. Speaking with the media, the minister said that there will be good news to share, but the government recognizes that significant challenges remain, that it must continue to focus on the high cost of living in the Bahamas. Bahamas 2024-2025 fiscal year ends on June 30th. The country's Prime Minister, Philip Davis, is expected to deliver the budget communication in Parliament on Wednesday for the new fiscal year, which will start on July 1. And internationally, King Charles III has arrived in Canada today for a historic visit, which is widely viewed as a response to U.S. President Donald Trump's repeated threats to make Canada the 51st U.S. state. During his two-day visit, Charles, who serves as Canada's head of state due to his role in the Commonwealth, will open Parliament with a ceremonial speech from the throne. This visit is seen as a message of support for Canada in light of the threats and provocations from President Trump. The King's speech from the throne to Canada's Parliament is expected to take place tomorrow. That's news, the DBS Evening Sports Report. Up next with Gavin Richards.
Covering the nation and beyond, DBS Sports Report.
Rudolph Thomas Enterprise in Portsmouth, your suppliers of building materials and hardware products. Over 20 years experience in the business. Rudolph Thomas has lumber and plywood, Portland and tile cement, steel rods, galvanized and fence pipe. And Rudolph Thomas can meet all your wire needs. Galvanized roofing sheets, doors, windows, toilet sets, face basins and bidets. PVC piping, fittings and lattice. Check out Rudolph Thomas for ceramic and vinyl floor and wall tiles, nails, nuts and bolts, paint and painting supplies. And check out their line of electrical and hand tools. And Rudolph Thomas is your one-stop shop for hard-to-find items like fiberglass mat and fiberglass resin and welding rods. Go now to Rudolph Thomas on 1240 Bay Street in Portsmouth.
Well, good evening, I'm Gavin Richards with the DVS Evening Sports Report. Let's bowl off with cricket news as Hayley Matthews put the West Indies on her back once again, but her efforts were not enough as the West Indies women went down again to England in the third and final ODI this afternoon. England batted first and made 144 for 5 in their 20 overs. Heather Knight got 66 not out. Hayley Matthews picked up 3 for 32. Zeta James 1 for 4 in 2 overs. The West Indies chasing 145 to win the game. They reached 126 for 8 in their 20 overs. Hayley Matthews got 71. West Indies, they lost the game by 17 runs and they've lost the series 3 games to none. Still in cricket news, the West Indies ODI captain Shea Hope has praised his troops for their clinical performance in winning the third ODI against Ireland on the weekend. Well, Casey Carty hit a career best 170 to lead the West Indies to the crushing win. The West Indies won by 197 runs via the Duckworth-Lewis method. Casey Carty was named the man of the match and the man of the series. The West Indies captain Shea Hope says it was a good bounce back to draw the series level, having lost the first match.
Yeah, very pleasing. As I said, you got to have that confidence from before you step onto the field. But yeah, it's great to see the guys can bounce back. Unfortunately, we didn't start as well as we wanted to, and we can't control the weather. So the last game would have been a bit of a blunder for us. But so it goes. What about some of the individual performances you've had? It hasn't necessarily been your most experienced players, has it? Has that pleased you the most? It's the guys with less international experience, particularly the young guys, stepping up in a big way.
I see. The thing with me and experience is, you look at it differently. I don't think you have to play a number of games to become experienced. Just the way how you learn from the experience that you had previously, and the way how Casey's been batting, the way how Jaden's been bowling in longer format, and then just transferring it here into the ODI format. It's just great signs to see. I think we're building a very strong team, and we've got a lot to look forward to going for.
And that's the West Indies captain, Shea Hope. Some volleyball news this evening. MCCU Sunrise Men's Division 1 volleyball team are one win away from a spot in the finals of the KFC National Volleyball League as they took game 1 of their semi-final series with the R&D Academy yesterday. Sunrise team won comfortably in straight sets, winning 25-20, 25-23 and 25-19. The Sunrise, while they're leading that 3-match series, 1-0. The Sunrise women, they're also one win away from a spot in the finals as they took care of Club 1 in game 1 of the women's semi-finals on the weekend. Sunrise took that match 25-21, 25-21 and 25-22. Meantime, in the men's Division 2, R&D Academy took a 1-0 lead in their semi-final series with Sunrise as they won their match in 4 sets, winning 22-25, 25-16, 25-20 and 25-22. In some more sports this evening, Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit has expressed his disappointment over the current works at the old site of the Dominica Club. The area is earmarked for a tennis court and other developments. The Prime Minister, speaking at a press conference this morning, says that the project has encountered some unexpected hurdles.
We have to make some funds available, and we'll do so in the course of the next few days. It's an important facility that the Member of Parliament for Roseau Central was able to mobilize funds outside the government. So the government hasn't spent money on this project itself. These are funds coming from 2 sources that the Member of Parliament was able to receive, and she's done some work there. Part of the challenge we have is that they went ahead and they gave Public Works Corporation to do the surfacing of the court. This will just take asphalt and just pour anything as if all is. Come on, man. You do not know that a tennis court has to be smooth. You do think who's only patching the roads in Dominica, and you get a big check after. Come on. So now this thing has to be ripped off and redone.
Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit. Wins for the Portsmouth Secondary School and the Northeast Comprehensive A and B teams as games continued this afternoon in the Sports Division Secondary Schools Under 14 Netball Tournament at Windsor Park. While in the first match, the Portsmouth Secondary School, they defeated the Castlebrook Secondary School 13-6. Shooting for the Portsmouth Secondary School, we had Jacola Benjamin, who made 13 out of 27 attempts. While for the Castlebrook Secondary School, Faithful Othan made 3 from 7 and Leanne Augustine also made 3 from 5 attempts. In other matches today, the Wesley High School suffered another defeat going down to the Northeast Comprehensive B team. They lost that game 25-3. Ronika Edwards made 13 out of 21 attempts and Shadisa Walsh 10 out of 16 attempts for the Northeast Comprehensive B team. And the Northeast Comprehensive A team, they defeated the Goodwill Secondary School 32-12. Shooting for the Northeast Comprehensive A team, we had Adari Samuel making 20 out of 36 attempts and Catalina Bugunu 12 out of 18 attempts. And for the Goodwill Secondary School, Uriel Lura made 4 from 6 and Christia Pierre 8 out of her 9 attempts. Let's go to some track and field news now, as President of the Dominica Athletics Association, Brendan Williams, says that the synthetic track for Dominica is very close to becoming a reality. His comments at the association's annual general meeting on the weekend, Williams told affiliates that site preparatory works for the facility is expected to begin soon.
One of the most significant developments now within reach is the construction of Dominica's first national track and field facility, a long-anticipated goal that is finally becoming a reality. This historic initiative is being made possible through the combined efforts of the Government of Dominica, World Athletics, the Dominica Olympic Committee, and the DAA. The Government of Dominica has played a leading role by securing and acquiring a 10-acre parcel of land at Point Rong Estate and by committing substantial financial resources toward the execution of the project. A contract will be signed in the coming days for the clearing and leveling of the site, marking the formal beginning of the construction phase. Once completed, the facility will serve as a safe, modern, and permanent home for athletics in Dominica, supporting training, competition, and athlete development for generations to come. We are also especially grateful to Will Athletics, whose financial and technical support has been invaluable. And I must add that upon completion, Dominica will be receiving a certified Class 1 track facility, which would be one of the highest in the Caribbean region.
The president of the Dominica Athletics Association, Brendan Williams. Well, the men's national basketball team got run out of the gym as they were blown out by Benin as the 2025 Courier Memorial Cup continued on the weekend at the Massac Indoor Facility. The West African team dominated from the get-go and they jumped out to the early 24-15 lead at the end of the first quarter, and they continued to press on their advantage throughout the rest of the game. Benin won comfortably 98-63. We had Shama Felicity leading the way for Dominica with 17 points, and Yohani Regis had 8 points, while Ade Chabot had 20 points for Benin. When the other match on the weekend, Guadeloupe beat Martinique 72-50. The tournament heads to Guadeloupe with Dominica taking on Martinique, and Benin will play Guadeloupe in the championship decider, and these games will take place tomorrow. Some football news. League leaders and DFA defending champions Central Cooperative Credit Union Dubai FC, well, they've maintained their lead at the top of the points table as they came from a goal down to beat Petro Caribe Point Michel as the DFA Premier League continued last night at the Jubla playing field. Well, Jubla got goals from Coben Paul, Brielle Thomas, Travis Joseph and Makoni Roy as they took the match 4-2. Jason Lender got one goal for Point Michel. The other goal was an own goal. Well, the win moves Jubla to 22 points. Meantime, second place Belfast Estate Mao Soccer Strikers, they kept pace with the league leaders with a 1-0 win over Valvoline United. Jan Timothy got that winner for Maho, and with the win, Maho, they've moved to 17 points, 5 points behind the league leaders, Jubla FC. In some other results from the weekend, the struggles for Connect 767 Quartz Redicast East Central continued as they suffered their 7th loss of the season. They were beaten 3-0 by Promex Harlem United. Dante Warrington, Tyrese John Baptist, and Jason Joseph, they scored a goal each for Harlem. And in some other matches, Roosevelt Scarlet Bombers and Midland United, they played a 2-2 draw. The other match scheduled for last night between Sagicor Southeast and DSFC, but that game did not take place due to a color clash. Both teams had black socks. Well, the DFA will make an announcement as to when that game will be rescheduled. Let's move on to some cycling news as the national cyclist Coaf Baron returned to the national circuit with a bang, reminding everyone of who is the boss as he blew past the opposition in the Dominica Cycling Association's 5th road race of the season. Well, the race took the riders from Marbois Bar to Portsmouth and back, and this was Baron's first race of the season as he's been training for the past few months in Colombia, where Baron completed the 55-mile ride in a time of 3 hours, 8 minutes and 7 seconds. He was 20 minutes ahead of the next rider, Gitson Marius, who finished in second place.
Well, I was pretty excited to be back. First race here in Dominica for the season. I came from Colombia training. Training was going good, but the last 2 weeks in Colombia was a little rough because I got really sick and couldn't really train. But I'm still good, in terms of fitness. I know I was fitter, but yeah, I'm coming into the race today. I didn't want to go that early in the race, but I don't know. I mean, when you're racing, it's like your mind is somewhere else, so you just do things, not knowing you do it. And from there, I just held a steady pace. And from Maho, I started getting some stomach aches, but I tried to block it out. And coming back, it got worse, so I couldn't really ride as hard. So I just took my time, came back. I had a goal today. I didn't meet my goal, but that's okay. I wanted to do the race under 3 hours because my best time is like 2 minutes faster than what I did today. So I still got my fastest time, but I wanted to do it faster. I know I can do it faster. So, but moving forward, I just have to keep training, get my fitness back up, and get set for the next races.
And that's the national cyclist co-op Baron Gidson Marius, who won the last 3 races. He finished in second place this time around in the elite division with a time of 3 hours, 28 minutes and 24 seconds. Levi Baron, he won the Masters division. The mountain bike division, that was won by Peterson Marius. And that race, of course, took the riders from Marbois Bar to Salisbury and back. And in the women's division, that was won by Rachel Semper. Well, it's 6:30 in Dominica and the rest of the Eastern Caribbean. That's going to bring us to the end of the DBS Evening Sports Report. We'll have some more sporting highlights for you tomorrow morning during the major morning news. On behalf of Leila Langford, who presented the news, and our links person, Joseph DJ Halo Boy Fadul, I'm Garvin Richards saying good evening.
Rudolph Thomas Enterprise in Portsmouth, your suppliers of building materials and hardware products. Over 20 years experience in the business. Rudolph Thomas has lumber and plywood, Portland and tile cement, steel rods, galvanized and fence pipe. And Rudolph Thomas can meet all your wire needs. Galvanized roofing sheets, doors, windows, toilet sets, face basins and bidets. PVC piping, fittings and lattice. Check out Rudolph Thomas for ceramic and vinyl floor and wall tiles, nails, nuts and bolts, paint and painting supplies. And check out their line of electrical and hand tools. And Rudolph Thomas is your one-stop shop for hard-to-find items like fiberglass mat and fiberglass resin and welding rods. Go now to Rudolph Thomas on 1240 Bay Street in Portsmouth.
DBS Radio gives you top quality service over any other for live streaming of funerals. Call us today at 448-3282.
Good evening and welcome to the evening edition of the DBS Radio Community Bulletin Board. It is the 26th day of May 2025. We begin with this evening's edition of the DBS Radio Death Announcements on the DBS Radio Community Bulletin Board. We announce the death of Judith George, age 53, of Penville. She died on Wednesday, the 14th of May. The funeral arrangements of the late Judith George of Penville will be given in a subsequent announcement. The management and staff of DBS Radio, the nation station, extends deepest condolences to all bereaved.
And now, your Community Bulletin Board.
Let's now present to you this evening's edition of the DBS Radio General Announcements on the Community Bulletin Board. The Aid Bank will be at the Sensi Resource Center in the Kalinago territory on Tuesday and Thursday of this week. That's tomorrow and Thursday, from 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. So once again, the Aid Bank will be at the Sensi Resource Center in the Kalinago territory tomorrow, Tuesday, and later in the week on Thursday from 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Persons inquiring loan financing are asked to be there to discuss your needs. Notice is hereby given that the 51st Annual General Meeting of Shareholders of Dominica Electricity Services Limited will be held at the St. Alphonsus Parish Hall, Goodwill, Commonwealth of Dominica on Thursday, June 5th at 9 a.m. to transact the following business: to receive and adopt the minutes of the 50th Annual General Meeting held on June 20th, 2024, to receive the